Welcome to the True Sky Crew podcast, where we share our cosmic pearls of wisdom. Why do we use True Sky Astrology? Because when we align with the true sky, we align with our true self. We are your hosts, Janine, Georgia, and Sashi. Thanks everybody for joining us live or on the replay today. We're going to be chatting about True Sky Taurus in the Zodiac lineup. So welcome everyone.
Welcome.
How's everybody doing today?
Pretty good.
Pretty
Still
good.
feeling that full moon though. Woo.
Yeah, it was a doozy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That and this past week, all the planets doing the boogaloo and the retrograde party. It's been a bit like a rubber band dance.
It
I'm
has.
feeling a lot of this Venus work starting to integrate. I loved your post today, Sachi, because I was definitely feeling that wow, this is a huge integration, what we just picked up from that Venus retrograde.
Absolutely. Especially with all of those Hydra things coming to surface. Oof. It runs deep.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Super deep.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Carla in the chats. I see you.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Ushma. Welcome.
Thanks for
You know,
joining.
we do want to address for people jumping in the live chat. Let's actually do this first, since people are already jumping in the live chat. Let's talk a little bit about our situation last week, just briefly, so people in the chats have the option to stay or go. I feel like that is kind of pertinent.
Yeah, we just want everyone to be aware that someone began harassing us and that they quite possibly might try to jump in the live feed or might be trying to follow you on various social media. This person is definitely an extreme fan addict with us, was, a great listener and follower, started getting a little bit aggressive about wanting to be part of our group. Then it turned into spamming, constantly tagging us, and then turned into harassment and threats. So if that starts to happen to you, no matter who it is, right? Anytime you get treated that way, it's important to not let people who treat you that way have access to you.
Yeah.
So just be aware. And the True Sky Crew is the only official True Sky Crew account that we do True Sky stuff on. And we have our personal accounts, but the True Sky Crew is the only official.
Right. And we just want people to know that this person would come on our YouTube lives. They may still be able, we have hidden them from being able to comment or participate in the live chat, but they can still watch. So they will be able to see who's in the live chat. So just for everybody's own safety, if they don't want to, if you don't want to participate with this person potentially watching the video, please feel free to jump out of the chat or just don't jump in.
Well, yeah, if they start chatting to you in any sort of way, because something that we noticed is that they went to all of our followers on Instagram, started following them, and so just be aware. But we appreciate everyone in the chat and continuing to, chat with us as we go through our episodes.
Yep. We love you guys. We love all the interaction, and we want to keep that. We want to keep fostering that and just be, a safe place for people to talk about True Sky Astrology. So we're going to continue to monitor what's going on YouTube. YouTube is a little bit of a different platform as far as blocking people. You can't really block people, but you can stop them from interacting. So we're just going to kind of see what happens in the next few weeks and play it by ear. And most of the issue was on Instagram. So that's the good news.
Yep, exactly. But we do appreciate everyone who's here. And of course, all your questions and comments. We do read every single one. We take them to heart, and we are going to continue to answer your questions as best we can. And we actually have 2 questions that we're going to be answering today. So let's pull up the first one. So our first question is, do you have a video for how to use the seasonal system and True Sky system together? Is that even possible? Like they overlay each other and influence different energies. I follow a calendar that is tied to the seasons, and I see through the Western astrology ties. At first thought it said I see through the Western astrology lies. Okay, although I have not studied that deeply, so still very curious and new. Hope that makes sense. So
Yes.
I don't think we have a video exactly of how to use the seasonal system and the true sky system together. However, something that is a pretty, I would say a general consensus loosely is that the system that uses quote unquote seasons, so we'll just say the tropical algorithm, is more of the, quote unquote matrix program. It's a man-made algorithm, sort of a lower self or a false self. And whereas true sky system is your highest self because it is your actual celestial coding. So in terms of that, I mean, as we sort of discussed in episode 1, most people start with the tropical algorithm because they are innocently indoctrinated into it. So most of us think that we're our tropical chart, and it takes a certain, I guess, awakening, you would call it, in order to even notice what the true sky is or use true sidereal. So it is possible because, again, it's like you usually are using the tropical first to get out of the other. So you can kind of say, like, for example, your moon, right? If your moon is tropical Gemini, but true sky Taurus, if you are all over the place with your emotions and feeling conflicting emotions constantly, can't ground yourself, that'd be like your lower self. You can understand, okay, I'm exhibiting more lower qualities of an astrological chart versus a true sky Taurus moon would be very emotionally grounded. Obviously, it differs case by case basis, but you can use it to sort of gauge your own ascension journey, or I guess like how much work you've done in this lifetime.
Yeah, and I don't know of any software that overlays it in a moment to moment, like you could scroll through it or something and be like, oh, I can watch these two moving together. It's kind of like there is an app, that moon app that we use, that contrasts the system. But I think the main thing to know is that there's a 24-degree difference between tropical and true sky at this point, and it will continue to diverge until, there's that 26,000 year precessional cycle. So we're 2,000 years into the precessional cycle, quote unquote, wherever you want to. They consider it starting in Aries, so we're just going to run with that. But I have questions in my head about that, even like, what is a starting point when you're talking about a wheel? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, you can, it was when it was developed was when Aries was prominent as a seasonal astrology. So that's kind of what it's pegged as the beginning of spring, because that's what was prominent during spring when it was developed. And we're 2,000 years into a precessional cycle. So in 24,000 years, tropical and true sky will sync up again. But that, it's a long cycle for it to be diverging and then, reconverging again until they're in sync. But the difference is the true sky is doing the tropical system and like a billion other different algorithms, like movements. So like the true sky is already doing it all. You don't really need to, I don't feel like, for me, I need to look at how they're both working. I mean, basically, I feel like tropical tracks solstices, equinoxes, and you can predict eclipses.
Yeah.
Or that's what it was started to be able to track eclipses.
Except the way that they calculate the eclipses now is incorrect for where they're actually happening in terms of solar movement of that sky over 2,000 years ago on repeat. Yes, exactly. It's in the same area of the sky, but it's not the same. It's not the same vantage point of our solar system.
Right. And that's because of precession.
Correct. Yeah.
That's because of precession. So it's like you can just throw that system out as far as being accurate, and you can just have fun watching it continue to diverge through your lifetime.
It's true.
Yay.
And even if you use a calendar system, I think most of us probably use the Gregorian. I know that's not true of the whole world, but most of us use the Gregorian calendar. And we talked a lot about the Gregorian calendar as a timeline siphon in episode 1. We do have a correction to that in episode 4. And even in episode 2, where we discuss Lionsgate, how detrimental using false timekeeping mechanisms can be, especially with things like portals, like Lionsgate and things like that. And even, even if you use the Gregorian calendar, it's not really tied to seasons necessarily, because, Aries season starts on approximately March 20th, 21st. It's not really aligned with a month per se. It's sort of like halves the months.
Yeah. Maybe we need to do a one-off episode somewhere, or maybe it's an in-between interim episode between like the zodiacs, and then maybe we'll do an interim on like calendar systems, like Gregorian, lunar, solar calendars, lunar calendars, and how they track.
Yeah.
What they track and how they differ. Yeah, because it might make sense. Like, it took me a lot of digging through calendar systems to really understand. What tropicals, what's going on with tropical. Also with tropical, you got to understand, like, the seasons it's tracking are northern hemisphere seasons. That in and of itself tells you where it was created. Like, it didn't take into account the southern hemisphere. So, there's the first chink in the armor, in my opinion, is like, it's not a global system
work at all for half of the entire world. Right.
So it doesn't take that southern hemisphere into account at all.
Period. At all times, it's 50% wrong. Even when the timelines converge in another 22,000 years or whatever it is, it's still wrong for the southern hemisphere. But if you want to look at something that uses the different systems together, this is what you would use. So this is like, just a little bit ago, about half hour ago. You can see the tropical is the center wheel, everything segmented into 30 degrees. The tropical algorithm says the sun is in Virgo, and even in sidereal, which that's something else that we talk about in episode 1, the difference between true sky and sidereal. So sidereal also says that it's in Leo. Or I'm sorry, it's still in Leo.
It's in Leo, and it is in Leo.
So it's still, sidereal, it's in Leo. But true sky astrology, Leo season's much, much longer because the ecliptic, the sun moves through the constellation Leo. So you can use this app if you want. I've never really used it that much, but you might be able to change the date here.
You totally can.
Your birthday? Yeah. Okay. So that would be something where you could look at all three.
You can time travel it, but of course, this doesn't show any of the other planets. It just shows the luminaries. So that it is limited in that way. But you can toggle between tropical, sidereal, astronomical, and just see how it's diverging. I guess, well, I don't know if it's programmed long enough. I mean, it would have to be like, you'd have to jump 20,000 years in the future or something for this to show the significance of how it's shifting over time. Like, Virgo eventually would be lined up, well, with all of the constellations, but like eventually Virgo, you'd see it lined up through Sagittarius, quote unquote Sagittarius, through the tropical system, and indeed all of them. Yeah. But you get to see it like circle around, like, do the shift in sort of sped up time kind of thing. So I could see in my head what this person was like looking for, and I'm like, I don't know anything like that,
I don't know
that exists like software wise, or we definitely haven't done a video on it, but we have now.
Here's the video. Although I have seen, I can't remember who it was, but I'll plug them on the next episode if I happen to see them again. But I have seen another true sky astrologist that they do your tropical chart with your true sky chart, and they do a comparison of that. So like, you learn about your lower self and your higher self, which is something that I did when I first made my switch, but at this point I'm like, true sky only.
Right on. So I hope that makes sense. And when you start taking into account the northern hemisphere argument with that, you're like, oh yeah, I see how that just doesn't work at all. So
Yeah. And like seasons are so different everywhere. Only the deciduous forests have
that's
equal
right.
4 seasons. And I live in the deciduous forest, and it is more aligned with the true sky. Like right now, we are still in the hottest of the hot of Leo season. And, you know, this whole Virgo season, which is coming up in a week or so, that's harvest season. And I can tell by my garden that that's when it's going to be.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
And I think, you know, the longer you work with the true sky, the less interesting tropical becomes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you realize the true sky is doing all that and a bag of chips.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So much more information to get. You learn so much more about yourself and the universe, I would say.
It's so beautifully complex. Yeah. Second question. I love this. I love this one. Not because she's like, you guys are awesome. Thank you very much.
But yes, thank you. Thank you.
But the bottom of the question, you might be able to see that better. I can't see the bottom of the screen there, Sashi, but the pertinent part, if you can read that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it has dawned on me that when I set an internal intention to learn more astrology, I was immediately pivoted to true sky. And I'm so grateful for that expansion. My sun, Venus, and Mercury are all in this void space. So if you saw our episode 3 on Cetus and Aries, you'll know what we're talking about. If you ever do a trio birth chart read, please let me know. Would love more insight into my chart.
Okay, so we loved this idea. We think this is fabulous.
Totally.
And we're definitely considering that this would be something that we would do as a giveaway and possibly as an episode on the True Sky crew here. So I think stay tuned, and we're going to expand on this.
Yeah, because I can imagine the 3 of us in an hour-long chat with a birth chart would be next level.
Yeah, that's so much info.
Yeah, you like ready for a download.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this, Trisha. We absolutely love it, and we are going to take this in multiple directions.
Right.
So thank you to the crew for all these great questions and ideas. We really appreciate it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to start working on some giveaways. Maybe for Christmas. Maybe we'll have to talk about that for Christmas. That might be fun. Good deal. So, we ready to jump into Taurus?
I think we are.
Perfect. I just dropped in the chat if anybody has any Taurus related questions or know anybody who is a Taurus and has any funny stories, feel free to drop them. I have a Taurus friend, and boy, do I have some stories, but
my brother's a Taurus. So
I have Taurus in my life as well.
Yeah, they're solid people. They are solid and reliable to a fault. Love you. You know who I'm talking to.
A bit on the stubborn side, and possibly the most controlling of all the signs, even more than Capricorn, in my humble opinion.
Definitely could be. Yeah, because it is fixed earth. So it's like, that's that concrete, baby. It doesn't get more solid than that. It's sort of, my way or the highway for a lot of Taurus, but that's part of being
they're
so
sane,
principled.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to push a bull?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I was thinking of my brother. It was so funny. As a child, he used to like put his head against other people's head and like push them, like as an infant. So he's been headbutting for quite some time.
That's really cute.
That is cute. So
my son has a Taurus rising, and today we went to a museum like for kids, and the first place he went was to the food area and hung out there for quite some time. I said, yep, this is his comfort zone.
Love it.
Cool. Do we have a Sky app or something we
Yeah,
can
let's
pull up,
pull
or
it up.
I can pull up the Astro software if we need to. Just, I feel like we need to take a look before we really dive in, take a look at the ecliptic and show how the ecliptic runs through Taurus.
Sure, yeah, if you want to do that, go for it.
Yeah, you guys go ahead and chat and
Because
I
mine doesn't
will
have
pull all that up.
the ecliptic. Yeah, which, Taurus energy on the higher vibrational aspect of it, it's principled. Taurus knows what it likes. It has its certain standards and will not budge on them. On the lower side, it's stubborn just to be stubborn because they want it their way and nothing else. But it can be a fine line between being principled and being stubborn sometimes for Taurus. But when you have a Taurus that can be flexible with new information while still holding true to their principles, it's really something special.
That kind of a Taurus can get a lot done.
Yes, they can, because they don't let barriers get in their way.
Yeah, and they tend to be less phlegmatic than some Tauruses can be, which is like that, a bit stagnant. So like they find a rhythm in their comfort zone and basically can sometimes just hang out there indefinitely unless you have something to drive them a little bit more.
I always use the analogy with Taurus, since it's the bull, which we'll talk about some other archetypes too, but as the bull, there's this energy of sort of plowing the back 40. So if you're doing something that needs to be done that is so labor intensive, it has to be, number one, worth the sweat of your brow. So the reward for the work that you're doing has to be an incentive. So that's why if Taurus doesn't see whatever they have to do as worthwhile, they typically won't do it, or they will go, if they're forced to, they will go so slow so that it's painful for everyone else involved too. Because if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. And either they won't or they'll just lollygag. And
I completely agree about that lollygagging thing. It's like infuriating how slow they can move.
Yeah. And again, but it's because, I mean, in general, moving slow is the most stable thing that you can do to make change. So when you actually want something to be grounded and stable, Taurus energy is the best to work with. But one of the things that I've noticed about Taurus is pacing is one of the big karmic lessons of being a Taurus or having any sort of Taurus placement, which is also part of the house, whatever Taurus rules over, house or houses in your chart. That's where pacing is essential for you to figure out. Most people need to learn to go slower, I would say, in our time for certain things. And some people need to learn to sort of pick up the pace. But you have to learn the pace that you go to get the job done correctly. And usually that does require a little bit of a slowdown. But again, if you don't want to do it, then why are you doing it?
Yeah, I'd agree with that completely. I mean, honestly, Taurus is probably the sign that has the easiest time on the earth plane. Security comes easy for them. Money comes easy for them. They love luxury, food, music, love, beauty, and they're really good at it, really quite naturally good at holding the material plane.
Absolutely.
But I think the shadow of that can be actually a bit of a control issue, because they're actually can be quite afraid of the unknown, which is part of the reason why they stick so hard, like, to their routine.
Well, even their traditional sister sign and still in polarity is Scorpio. So it's like the furthest away from the material stability of Taurus is all the dank, nasty energy of poison and, multiple lifetimes and stuff that Scorpio can represent.
Definitely. And we can see that shadow in Taurus through their kind of sometimes hedonistic way of being. Like, I find that Taurus is actually a sign that, because their constitution is so strong, that they can actually be kind of like secret functional addicts.
For sure.
more than you would realize. Yeah.
Absolutely. Most, and this is coming from tropical, but most of the Taurus that I knew at the time when I followed the tropical algorithm were all addicted to something, whether it was food, drugs, alcohol, sex. None of them were addicted to work, though. I feel like that's definitely sort of a Capricorn-y Earth thing in Virgo. But yeah, they were all functional addicts. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, they're looking for stability, but it kind of gets a little sideways on them. They're looking for something that's regular. And sometimes habits like that can also be destructive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this
It's
is
like
what
once
we're...
go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. I was just gonna
I was
start
just
talking
gonna
about
say,
the
because like
ecliptic.
once you physically get into, right, because they're like, for me, Aries is all about the energetic body. Taurus represents the physical body and the 5 physical senses. So once you get, those tactile experiences and sensory experiences, then, and even the biological integrations, like alcohol, for example, once you start drinking, your body, your physical vessel is wanting it to be more stable because it's already like dependent upon a certain substance.
Yeah.
So I got to be really careful. I mean, everyone has to be careful, but
a sign that is connected to the mouth and luxury and the senses definitely has to be careful.
Yeah. Whenever I think of Taurus, I think of like Kim Kardashian is my go-to. It's like it can go to excess and extreme, too focused on their physical beauty, too focused on the luxury, very materialistic, or it can be the opposite, just like stubborn and won't work on anything, just stuck in a like holding pattern, basically. I will not leave my holding pattern. So it can be either side of that sensory window, right? Which is interesting. So this is what we're looking at with the ecliptic, how the ecliptic, the path of the sun, how it moves through this area. So the last episode we talked about how the ecliptic moves in between Aries and Cetus and doesn't actually touch either one. This is sort of like a manifestation bridge into the material world. It's everything that's you that is not physical, and everything that's you that is ancient and also you're not aware of it as well with the Cetus energy. And then really the first entrance into material creation is through Taurus, because that is technically the first sign where the ecliptic crosses the asterisms of a zodiac, of the Taurus zodiac constellation. So just kind of an interesting nugget there. You can see it cruises right past the Pleiades up here. We have Aldebaran or Aldebaran, however you prefer to say it, which is a royal star. And then there's also an alignment towards the end of Taurus. It's actually in the void space, I do believe. Betelgeuse and Polaris, which is way up here, which is our pole star, is like technically in the void space in Taurus, between Taurus and Gemini, which is a big Stargate alignment. So in the Capricorn Prometheus software, it would show up as like that alignment is still through Taurus. But if you're actually looking at a sky app, that alignment looks like it's through that void space, which I think is even more interesting. But that's me. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Taurus is a decent sized constellation. And you can see the influence, like the first, there's not much of a void space between like where Aries, the last star in Aries, touches the ecliptic, or I should say aligns with the ecliptic, and where the first star of Taurus aligns. It'd be less than a day in this little tiny window. And this is where Uranus is started as retrograde. Actually, let me put that back on here. Where is that? Right there, so y'all can see where the planets are. So you can see Uranus is like moving into that little teeny tiny void space between Aries, which technically doesn't even touch the ecliptic, but you know, if you do alignments with the fixed stars, you can say, well, it kind of is like here and then this one. So technically Uranus is right on the edge of Taurus, getting ready to move back into this area in the Aries Cetus void space, hanging out with his buddy Jupiter,
Mhm.
who also just went retrograde.
Yep. Right after Venus went direct.
Yep.
They did their little high five. Okay, your turn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Tag team retrogrades. So that's kind of the area of the sky that we're dealing with. There's a lot of interesting alignments, like Orion starts playing in towards middle to the end of Taurus, like second half of Taurus, we start getting into Orion alignments. I think Nihal,
really,
Lepus, things like that.
The interesting part of Taurus, I mean, you know, other than its own self, is all of the really kind of radical alignments that happen through this constellation.
Yeah. I think you do have to be really grounded to navigate some of those alignments. That's probably why it is what it is like buckle up, put your feet on the ground, get ready to land some codes, yo.
Mm-hmm.
That's always what it feels like for me. I mean, Aldebaran in and of itself feels like, with the soul energy that comes through that, the blueprints that use that Stargate, for me, it really is kind of like the hierogamic union materializing masculine, feminine energy on the planet. It's literally like where those things come and land on the planet to create new codes, you know, each higher octave of things that can land on the planet. So because it's like the Michael lineages come through there, the Venusians can come through there, Magdalenes, you know, you're talking golden dragons and Magdalene energy. And I'm just like, and they both use that Stargate. They both, you know, if you see this in a birth chart, it's like, okay, power portal, literally, you know, bull market, power portal, manifestation, right?
Bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you mentioned that, Georgia. The bull's eye. Most astrology does call it the bull's eye, but the HA ray system of astrology, the zodiac artwork shows it as the heart of the bull.
I was going to bring that up as well. I feel the heart energy so much more in a way than the eye. And I also feel that that bull is really more of a heavenly cow.
Yeah,
personally,
agreed.
As a fixed earth Venusian sign, I'm like, oh, this is her heart and this is a cow.
I kind of agree.
That nurturing,
aren't there breeds
earthy...
of cows where even the female cows have horns though? Because like I know this reference is like the horns of the bull. With
there are cows that have all have horns.
So maybe it's just a certain breed of cow. It's not specifically a bull. Because I was looking at Highland, I think it's like the Highland, whatever that breed is, and I was like, I think
the shaggy ones.
Yeah, the really fluffy
the super
ones.
cute
So
ones.
cute.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that may be an interesting reframe on Aldebaran, because it's really kind of ambidextrous as far as the masculine and feminine energy, because it takes both to create. So, but it is ruled by Venus. You're right. It's ruled by Venus, the goddess.
And there's something about the first material sign and such a sign of materialization. I mean, the word like matter comes from mother. So for me, it just carries such a feminine essence. You know, I feel the like the mother's milk and the nurturing and the food and the hearth in this sign. And for me, that's definitely more of a cow energy than a bull.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which kind of goes to show the bastardization of the archetype in a way, because the bull is what is slaughtered. That's what the meat that we eat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting reframe on, you got to really look at the archetype and go, okay, because I've seen some really cool artwork with like, goddess Venus sitting on the back of a cow and all the Egyptian deities, the cow deities.
So I looked that up today, and there's actually a text called The Heavenly Cow, and it talks about Hathor and her story basically about, I have to ground this story more before I can really accurately go into it all. But that the cow goddess basically was wreaking havoc. And so the sun god, and now this is all up for major recoding, went from the earth into the heavens, and it was the constellation of Taurus, which they called the heavenly cow. And from there, we ordered the cosmos. So there's this interesting way that you can see, I had that thought like, it seems like there was definitely a gender inversion in that, because it started out as the heavenly cow and it became the celestial bull. So it just, I felt like, oh, there's something to kind of recode in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Especially being Venusian, which is a very feminine energy.
Exactamundo. That's the thing you got to remember too, I think, as you go through some of the archetypes, like as we will move through these archetypes in different episodes, is like, what is the ruling planet? Is it masculine or feminine? What is the mode? What is the element? That kind of stuff. And it really gives you a clearer understanding, minus all the bullshit. So,
which is interesting. We had June in the comments mention that they feel that Taurus is very Venusian, but also very Saturnian.
Yeah, I could see like where the stubbornness, the stuckness, I think that might be too,
even the need to physically restrict themselves.
Yeah, the elemental quality or the mode, like fixed earth, is like they just get stuck in their own stuff sometimes and they can't.
But they get stuck in their stuff, like they're going to be on the couch eating chips about it, where I feel like Saturn gets stuck in their stuff in a way where they're going to be like at work until midnight.
Yeah. Again, it's different addictions, but still same kind of stuck. It's like Taurus is running away from something, running away from responsibility by going into sloth and gluttony, whereas a Capricorn may be running away from their emotions or physical problems by trying to just work so much, hoping that that's going to solve all their problems.
It's still avoidant, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's the earth sign thing, that kind of propensity for being stuck and not moving quite as fluidly as the other signs or the other elements.
I agree.
And I have to say the difference
in general too, even Virgo, right? It's like they'll avoid their emotional or inner issues by trying to change physical reality. We talked a little bit about like OCD and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like with the chart rulers too, like Taurus, well, let me say it the other way around. Capricorn is more, it would be avoidant because there's probably karma to work on. Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's just, they probably just can't address change in some way to be creative, because like they are inherently creative, but it's very a grounded kind of, it's like earthy, like I want to plant a garden, it's very practical and down to earth, whereas I think the Capricorn thing would be like, I don't know,
they're trying to like build upwards. I feel like Capricorn's trying to build upwards. Whereas Taurus is connected more to nature. And it feels like Taurus, again, because they really like to go at their own pace of like, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. So if the only things that they enjoy doing are, tasting certain things, eating and drinking and sleeping, if those are the only things they enjoy because they haven't broadened their horizon, and maybe they haven't had overcome a challenge and feel the goodness that it feels to accomplish overcoming a challenge. So if they haven't experienced it, then they'll just get stuck in what they know and what they deem pleasurable. And that's that hedonistic tendency that you mentioned earlier, Georgia. They just want to do what they want to do.
They really do.
That
And they
is
don't want to
the
do what they don't
truth.
want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is the truth.
Yeah.
I would
You
say
just
though,
nailed my friend's personality. Like, great person, like so down to earth, like she's just happy doing her thing out on the farm, but don't mess with her routine and don't tell her to do it differently.
Hey, if it works for her though, and she
Exactly.
self-sustains, then there's really no reason to.
Yeah. And I think that's what you have to consider when people come in, like from a bigger soul perspective, a past life, future life point of view thing, like why are they a Taurus now in this life? It's because they're probably doing some balancing where this is the life where they get to have this stability. They can create this stability for themselves. So it's probably a really important soul lesson of like determination and being able to depend on themselves and create their own heaven on earth, whatever that looks like for them, right? Whatever feels safe and connected to the planet in some way. So
exactly. And again, the polaristic opposite is like, it's so far away from the shadow work that that Scorpio represents, and even Ophiuchus and healing. So even though, of course, with any polarity, you do have to work with both sides, but it's so separated from that. So there's like kind of the most resistance to it.
Yeah. Well, their last past life might have been intensely about karmic reconciliation, and this is like the vacation life.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely can't judge them.
No, it
Absolutely
definitely feels
not.
like their vacation life. And that's what I also mean by like, they kind of have a masterfulness of the physical reality because they find a way to cruise almost effortlessly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Totally
and that
agree.
is something my friend would totally say too. She's like, I don't know how these things always just work out like at the right time. The money's there, the situation's there, the house is there, the car is there, like the things are there. She's like, I don't know how that happens. And I'm like, it's because you're a Taurus, babe.
Yep, exactly.
Naturally friends with the material world.
It's true. And you had mentioned being materialistic earlier in sort of a negative connotation, which I think the concept of being materialistic has been very skewed in modern day, because I see materialism as more of the high vibrational qualities of Taurus, because true materialism is not designer bag, designer name,
Exactly.
sort of stuff. It's what is the quality of the material of the things that you have. And one of the things that I always tell my clients to do if they have Taurus placements, like the way to hack any sort of Taurus placements is you have to have high quality material. It's all about quality over quantity.
That's
Whereas
the
like
thing.
a low vibrational Taurus
Yes.
might get like, 100 pairs of, plastic, polyester clothes. Whereas like a higher vibrational Taurus would get one beautiful silk gown sort of thing. So it really has to do with caring. And again, it's that caring about matter.
Yeah, and that
matters.
really is the high vibe, is they can manifest that stuff into their life. Do they need 1,000 cheap knockoff pairs? And you're right, it is to bring that one really nice quality item in, handmade, or you made it yourself, or whatever it is. But material, what is the word you used on that other podcast we did? To materialize.
To materialize.
Yes, it's to materialize things energetically. That's really, I feel like, what Taurus is about at a soul level, is to bring things into material creation. So at
material
the level
is good.
of consciousness that humanity is at, that is the struggle with quote unquote materialism.
Yeah,
it is quantity over quality, unfortunately.
Yeah, most people take consumerism as materialism, whereas like the true nature of materialism is caring about the material of which you are consuming.
Yes, and that is another good point. Like stewardship is one of the main components, I feel like, of a Taurus soul mission, like caring for the earth, being a steward of the planet and the animals. And so that really is one of their big challenges, is to define the material versus the commercial. right? Like the
Exactly.
high octave of materialism versus the low octave of materialism.
Exactly. And you find when you have higher quality material, you need less of it. So
Yeah,
even
'cause
if
you're
you're
happy with
thinking, yeah, you're happy with it, it usually lasts longer. For the example of food, you know, a Taurus that eats a really high quality, nutrient dense meal of, you know, vegetable, fruits, and maybe meats or dairy, they're going to be satiated versus a lower vibrational Taurus that might eat a whole bag of chips and drink a 2 liter
Yeah.
of soda. So, and then be hungry an hour later.
Mhm.
Yeah, nourishing the body, taking care of the body is definitely one of the Taurus lessons, I would say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which for Taurus, you know, as a fixed earth entity, I use 2 examples of what fixed earth is. One is the planet that we're on, which even though we have shifting tectonic plates, it is the most fixed earth thing that we have is our planet. And that has to do, of course, with the relationship with nature and Taurus being a steward of that, but also our DNA sequence as a fixed earth entity while we're here. So, you know, every single cell in your body has your entire DNA blueprint with few exceptions. And the way that a cell becomes differentiated into, let's say, a liver cell versus a skin cell is just what genes are activated or inactivated. But even if you take a skin cell, it still has the entire genetic blueprint for your liver cells and spleen cells for all of you. And so the entire blueprint is, again, it's that fixed earth entity of your genetic blueprint, which changes over time. We age, and sometimes there are abnormalities, and those abnormalities are caused by the things that you are consuming, which is all Taurus through the 5 physical senses, the sounds that you're listening to, the things that you're eating, the things that you're drinking, the things that you're touching, putting in, you know, on your skin, which of course Taurus is, I'll say, brother sign. The other one that's ruled by Venus is Libra, which rules the skin. So it's like Taurus is the body, Libra is the skin. Whatever you're putting in and on your body is Taurus energy, which is going to alter which genes are activated or inactivated.
Mm-hmm.
I do find though that Taurus is pretty good at self-care because they like to feel good. They like beauty. They like ritual. They like art. They're just kind of a natural emanation of the goddess of love. So in that way, like they can sometimes be almost like addicted to self-care.
Yeah, that's why I always get the Kim Kardashian image in my head. It's like when self-care goes kind of haywire.
Yeah, bodily mutilation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Isn't
yeah,
she a Libra? Oh, no,
I have no idea.
don't know. That's a
But
good question.
that is true. And again, it's like, what is the quality of the self-care? Because nowadays
Yeah.
people say, order a pizza and drink beer, self-care, relax. When it's like, that's actually self-destruction. Self-care would be, you know, booking a day at an all-organic spa or something like that, of, you know, a small business spa, something where everything that is being consumed and used on your body is sustainable and the employees are paid a living wage and things like that. Because, you know, I'm thinking of some of the Tauruses that I knew. I say that because most of the Tauruses I knew were of the tropical algorithm. So I guess they would technically be Aries or Cetus or Pisces. But they, you know, they would love self-care and things like that. And we would do, you know, our makeup and our hair and stuff. But I'm thinking about the products that we even used, and it's all just toxic ingredients and endocrine disruptors and things causing telomere attrition. So again, that's where you really got to be careful of the quality of the material.
Absolutely.
And how it's influencing literally your physical vessel.
And that's with everything. There's the higher aspect and the lower aspect of everything. Self-care, is it materialism or is it opulence? Is it self-care or is it gluttony? And that's always to be discerned and, you know, is attributed to kind of the soul's level of maturity.
Exactly.
There's the higher and the lower octave of every sign, and kind of the middle in between as well.
Yeah. And whatever else they've got going on in the dynamics of their chart that may be causing it to express on the lower octave side of it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people have things to work out that it's like it'll just play out as self-care. Like if they have a Taurus placement, it might be like, okay. So that's what you're working on. Start eating your veggies, put the beer down.
Exactly.
You can still, it's like, I always feel like the high octave Taurus is like a good home cooked meal with family around and everybody chips in. It's made with love and it's from the garden, like you grew the food yourself and you're sitting down with your family eating something that is just a love based, totally in balance. It's not like you had to go to the grocery store and buy anything. Like I always get that sort of warm, cozy feeling when you're doing Taurus stuff in alignment.
Yeah, the hearth. But then they're definitely going to have like the glass of wine with it and like the little piece of chocolate cake after dinner.
Oh, for sure. But there's organic chocolate and organic wine. That's
exactly.
Okay.
That wine's probably made by them in their vineyard, or they traded it from their wine.
Dandelion wine.
Yeah.
The vineyard they inherited from their family, so they just have money coming in.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's no box of Franzia.
Yeah. I totally get self-sustaining with this, like at a high octave, like living off the grid, figuring out how to have clean, natural spring water. Like, those are kind of the vibes I get with the Taurus energy, at least some of it. Some of it can be more beauty related. Like I've met some Taurus people that are very beauty related. They usually are very beautiful. Because how can you not be when Venus is your chart ruler? When the goddess Venus is your chart ruler too? Because I feel like through Taurus, it's really the emanation Venus as the goddess. And in Libra, it's more like Venus as the creative intellect, the librarian, somebody who's the creative writer or good with words, that kind of thing.
And the attractor.
Yeah.
I would say always, it's like Venus's mating ritual almost. Always being in union with somebody.
Yeah, I could see that too. Like very magnetic. Taurus people, Taurus sun people, or with prominent Taurus placements. Venus is very magnetic. So you'll definitely magnetize those things into your life.
Tauruses tend to be amazing lovers because of this.
They probably have hot boyfriends or girlfriends or partners. Because they have discerning taste.
Experience. Yes, they do. Yeah, and they rule the senses. So,
it's gotta be pleasing to the eye.
Exactly. Yes. Pleasing to the eye, pleasing to the tongue, pleasing to the touch, the smell.
All of the above.
Yep.
Foreplay in the kitchen, probably.
Oh,
like
man.
A nice
for sure.
Meal is the foreplay.
That the way to a Taurus is through their stomach.
That's so true. How to woo a Taurus. The proverbial dinner and chocolate
show.
Yeah, and a show.
You know the kind of show we're talking about.
Indeed. What else do we want to say about Taurus, you guys?
I was just thinking,
check.
Georgia, how you had talked about Cetus and these sound codes that come from Cetus, and then we get to Taurus, which rules the throat, so it rules the voice box basically. And how we talked, the three of us, how Taurus kind of looks like a tuning fork. I was wondering if you could say a little bit more on sort of the sound codes about Taurus.
Okay, so I actually had said that about Uranus looking like the kind of cosmic tuning fork. It wasn't about Taurus.
Oh, okay.
But Taurus
when you brought that up, I thought it really does look like that. And being that it's the first sign of material creation, and that we basically we live in the universe. Like we live in a place that's called one song. We are sound beings. So it actually makes a lot of sense. Like Taurus is usually known for having a beautiful voice, and they're very musical. So it actually makes a lot of sense that you can see a lot of like music and sound codes and creation moving through Taurus, and that the sign of Taurus, the symbol for it, does actually look like a tuning fork. And it got me thinking about the music industry and how basically people are kind of hypnotized by music these days, and how music is used as a warfare. And it got me wondering how many people in the music industry have Taurus positions. So just a little thing to chew on for later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Things, I could see how like spells from Hollywood and speaking
For
things into
sure.
creation, that kind of stuff. I could see that.
Yeah, because even obviously like mainstream music, most of it is very downtrodden, and they get you to say phrases, right? Sound equals reality. As Georgia was saying, we live in a sound field, and supposedly our multiverse was created from sound as well. So if we just think about the collective and the way our throat chakras are being utilized to materialize things, one of the probably the biggest examples that everywhere around the world was when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, and they made their motto, "I can't breathe." And people are just chanting that all around the world. And then boom, we have a fatal respiratory disease, or, and people are, their lungs are collapsing. So that's just like one example that you can see very blatantly worldwide.
One thought I was having about Taurus as well is that there's a certain quality of Taurus, for as beauty oriented as they are, and beautiful and comforting and all these things, they can be very unforgiving. It's like if you make a Taurus upset, they'll kind of keep it there in their pocket forever.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about flower essence for them, like that actually helps with forgiveness. And I came to one, pine, but it's about forgiving the self. And I thought, wow, where we're unforgiving for others is ultimately where we are unforgiving of ourselves. And being that material reality is so difficult for most, it being that Taurus is a sign that the material world is kind of born through. It did make me wonder, like, what is it about the Taurus that they're not forgiving in their own selves that kind of causes such a deeply, I think that they're can hold quite a grudge.
I totally agree. And I think that's something that the Taurus Scorpio axis shares.
Absolutely.
And I think because it causes such a physical imprint on their memory, I'm not quite sure where it came from, but even when I was a child learning about the zodiac, I always learned that Taurus has the longest memory.
Yeah.
So they will remember things for like the longest. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because my little brother remembers every single time that I was mean to him when we were really little. He can still remember like memories from when he was 2 years old. And he'll still talk about, I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, Bubby. He's like, yeah, no, it's okay. I forgive you, but I still remember.
Flower essence in his water for him.
Yeah. Which flower
like,
essence do you
like
recommend
the elephant
for Taurus? Yeah.
So
they never forget.
I was feeling pine for the forgiveness. Aspen, I thought of this for a moment. Aspen really helps with where there's fear of things that they can't control. Cayenne is awesome for helping with inertia. And if a Taurus is just not feeling themselves and they need to feel more connected with nature and beauty and art, Iris is an amazing essence for them as well.
That's great information.
And then, of course, their color, like the color of Taurus is green, and the stone associated with Taurus is emerald.
Oh, interesting.
His emerald holds those abundance codes, those beauty codes, those relationship codes. And you can see that all through Taurus as well.
I'm getting pings of emerald order. I'm like, you just connected some dots for me, sister.
Ooh, I love it.
Love it when a plan comes together. So we have a question in the comments from June. Can some, hang on a second, can some of, I think that's the aspects in a chart mean uterus issues and conditions? I guess that's in relation to Taurus. I know about the lungs being something Taurus rules, but never knew what about the rest of the body. I think Gemini rules the lungs.
Yes, Gemini
It
rules the
does.
lungs, but the neck and shoulders and
And mouth and
shoulders.
lower
yeah,
jaw.
Joyce says mouth, yeah. So, well, it's interesting. Again, like I feel a lot of polaristic energy coming in about Taurus for whatever reason. But if we consider Scorpio and Ophiuchus ruling over the sexual and reproductive organs, there's some, polaristic karmic work that needs to be done with any Taurus placement in that regard.
I agree. I was going to
But
mention that
typically
as well.
Taurus are very fertile, I would say.
Yeah,
Or
because
virile.
Venus. Fertile and virile.
They're considered like one of the most like powerful constitutions of the signs. Like Taurus tend to live a long, healthy life.
Yeah, definitely.
Even like they have a strong constitution. So even with some of their, luxurious ways, they can usually hang for pretty long. And most of the things, like if things do crop up, it just takes a lifestyle change to correct.
Yeah. Well, again, they can be so stubborn that they refuse to die.
That's
a good
true.
point.
Yeah.
Opposite Scorpio.
It's like, yep, exactly. Yeah. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that today.
I'm staying on this planet, damn it.
Yep, exactly.
Like, I'm not leaving Mama Earth. And also, mentioning the Scorpio being opposite, it's also Scorpio and a Ophiuchus, right? I don't know if you mentioned that. I was kind of up and down in the
Libra.
comments. And some
Yeah.
Libra. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So kidneys, reproductive organs, and, like the orgasmic or parts of the organ. Because I know from Georgia, I learned like Ophiuchus is really healing like the generative organs as far as the orgasm and the pleasure. And I was like, that makes so much sense, like returning back to source, and that is really connected to sort of knowing God. I met God.
Yeah,
that kind
absolutely. So we have the galactic center there in Ophiuchus, which
at the end of Ophiuchus
feels like the yoni and kind of like the orgasm at the same time.
Yeah, the Big Bang. So yeah, I could see how it could be like an opposition. If there was a planet opposite something in Taurus, I could see how that might affect the uterus or reproductive issue organs, that kind of thing.
Definitely.
That was a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, June.
Right.
Yeah.
9:36.
Do we want to flash the let me stop the screen share and we can flash the bountiful fixed stars that align through Taurus and just quickly show everybody.
Flashing? All right, there we go.
So there's a lot. We've got a lot of things, and this is just a handful. Like there's some that I don't even use or talk about. Like there's augury. Capella is on there actually. Auguria is in there. It spans from Perseus all the way to Polaris, which is Polaris is in Ursa Minor. So that's a pretty good scope. We get all the Orion alignments, or most of the Orion. Actually, it's all of the Orion alignments come through Taurus. So I feel like that may be why Taurus people, I'd have to think about it a little bit, but it's like that might be why they're so steadfast, is like I think some of those people are really dealing with a lot of courting to the Orion constellation, and you kind of just have to be in your own bubble to be like, nope, that stays out there. I'm living my life, right? Like it's not this life to deal with it. I can have this good life. And I feel like sometimes if Taurus people do sort of pop into anything they may be dealing with through Orion alignments, it can really rock their world, because it's really going to disrupt sort of that stability in their life. I mean, I have a south node in Taurus exactly at Aldebaran. So I can tell you when my stuff came up that was Orion based, like it really did rock my world.
My south node's in Taurus too.
Yeah.
I feel you.
So sometimes popping that energy bubble can be quite intense. So I don't know if Taurus Suns, I think Taurus Sun people would have enough soul power to just be like, nope, I'm here. I'm safe in my energy bubble. I'm here to be on this planet and have a good, solid life, because maybe it is a vacation life, right? Or maybe they're just integrating lessons from the previous life and they get to have a Sun in Taurus life where it's like, I just radiate this stability and this groundedness. So
I can see you both with the north and south node that you just said. Like it actually makes a lot of sense.
No. That was the one thing my parents always said about me is like, you are the most stubborn child. And I'm like, it was just because it was like I was doing it my way and nobody was going to tell me any different. It's like, I know I'm here to do this thing. I'm going to do it my way, and no to that, no to that, no to that, no to that. And it was infuriating, I'm sure. But hey, when you come in with a mission, it's like sometimes those placements help you stick to the mission, right? You're just like,
yes, I agree.
Stay in the course.
Yeah, I find with Orion alignments, usually the Taurus sort of has to fight more for their stability. There's more of a pushback against it rather than living the vacation life. It's like, it's sort of like, if you have your farm, you have to up your defenses to protect your farm. Sort of having like a gate or, some dogs there to protect from any like wolves that come.
That makes sense. A Taurus person would have that anyway. They probably have like 8 dogs,
tons of pets, yeah,
farm cats,
definitely,
a couple of horses, and
I definitely agree about the qualitative difference as you get through the Taurus constellation. Kind of like starts off with a bang with alcohol, but then it sweetens for a bit before then it kind of gets back into a little bit of like more difficult work.
Yeah, with Orion. Yeah.
It's like once we hit those Orion stars, it's like kind of
some of them. Yeah, there's a couple of them that are very intense. Rigel's very intense. Aldebaran's very intense, but Aldebaran can go either way. Like it's really easy for Aldebaran to be high vibe, or you could be in sort of like, low vibe Aldebaran, low vibe Vol stuff is like Wall Street, right? Being so consumer based, you just can't get out of that matrix system. What are some of the other challenging ones? Alma Lamb, the middle belt star. That's a tough one. And then you've got Nihal, super uber high vibey. That's not Orion, that's Lepus constellation, but that's in Taurus. That's a really cool one. Mintaka, the right Orion belt star. That's a really nice Orion transit. But there's lot of. It's the one on the right, the farthest one on the right.
No, I'm saying like, is it a nice transit?
If you have Mintakan lineage, it is. I mean, there's some stuff going on where that star has been destroyed, and like we're still seeing the light from it, but it no longer exists. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on with the Orion Wars with Mintaka. It's part of why Orion is hijacked, but a lot of times if people have starseed lineage from Mintaka, they do a lot of reintegrating it as the transits happen. So it's anchored, the remembrance is anchored on this planet. You know what I'm saying? So it's not always, and I don't feel like
the
it's
mermaids.
Challenging. It's aquatic, humanoids. It's not all mermaids.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, that's the general archetype that people think of with a Mintaka.
Yeah.
But there's different aquatic lineages from that star system.
Yeah, we had sorry, say that again, Georgia?
It says kind of like a water world.
Yes. Which we had someone in the chat ask, like, does it matter if you have a placement in Taurus where it is in the constellation? And this is the perfect example of why the answer is yes. So if if whatever planet or celestial body, sun, moon, or, you know, rising on the ecliptic for your rising sign, whatever star is either there or whether it's a star alignment, it really does make a difference, huge difference. Like the Pleiadian starseed system that would be within Taurus, like if you have stuff near Pleiades, there's so much about Pleiadian stuff that you're going to have to, you know, work with during this lifetime versus if you have it with Mintaka versus Polaris, you know.
Yeah.
There's such different energies.
Yeah, it's a huge range. The toughest one by far is Algol at the top of the list. Like it's like, welcome to Taurus, bam, you hit a wall. Algol transits are, God, they're some of the hardest transits. And when I have people that come through for galactic readings and they have this star prominently in their chart, I'm like, it's one of those where I'm like, kind of, oh boy, okay, it's going to be one of these sessions. How are we going to be productive here and be like, okay, there's going to be some stuff you're going to have to deal with in this life. Algol placements do not mess around. They are.
Yeah, Algol's the Gorgon, correct?
Yeah, it's Medusa's head in Perseus constellation.
Yeah, that's some.
Yeah, they're usually dealing with some past life victimization, like very magical beings that are demonized and vilified.
Yes.
And persecuted, victim and traumatized. And it's just, there's a lot of stuff comes through there.
Yeah, I have Algol oppositions.
Yeah, I have Algol. I think I have Algol placements or oppositions. Like I can tell you, it's can be rough sailing.
What's the opposite? Isn't there a star, like, what's the opposite of Algol?
You know, I haven't made a list like that, but that's a good question.
That is a good question. I can look it up real quick.
I feel like I remember talking to you about it, that there's a star opposite that's like a very innocent and beautiful star that felt
Hadar.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yes. Taurus, yeah.
Hadar, yeah. That and it's I remember this conversation now. They're both trinary star systems.
Yes. Yeah, because that was in my chart.
Yes.
Nice.
And that is very significant. Moving into that Trinity consciousness. Hadar is in Centaurus constellation.
Correct. Yeah, Beta Centauri.
Also known as, is it Beta Centauri?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is. It has another name. I can't remember what that is off the top of my head, but it's got a bunch of names. But that is like, you're right. It's like pure unconditional love, very divine feminine, innocent, beautiful, like beautiful souls that emanate from there. And on the other side is Algol, and it's like, whew, if you've got placements at Algol, it's kind of like, okay, good, you're kind of working through that in a manifested way in the lifetime. And the opposite to integrate is the beautiful, lovely, divine feminine. That's great. It can mean you have to find grace in your situations. That's how it can translate. If it's the other way around, it's like, you know, Libra placements in the sky have the Hadar alignment if it's in a certain part in the chart. And it's like they just emanate that quintessential Libra, like bubbly, everybody's a good person, like they're in a kind of, it's almost in this utopian, naive kind of way, like nothing, everybody's beautiful, everything. It's a very positive outlook. And then on the other side, when their integration work happens with Algol, it's like they have to hold that vibe for themselves. Like, it's okay. I am the unconditional love. I'm doing all this reconciliation work for all the whatever aspects are being held at Algol. So
I feel that so much.
Yeah, kind of the difference in the direction depending on which side the placement is. So.
Yep, that pretty much sums a lot
Sums
about
up our
me
lives.
up. Yeah. Because my son's there.
So, I
On which
mean,
side?
our birthdays aren't that far apart. So is mine, just in a different year.
Yeah, I've hate our sun.
Yeah. I do
And then
too.
alcohol's in opposition to my sun.
Opposition. Yeah.
Mhm,
But I would say most of my life I functioned on the opposition lower,
mhm.
Well, it's
you know, when I was
interesting because
younger, until I
it's
maybe hit
what's
16 or something.
it's what's
Very
conjunct your
Libra.
sun that helps you integrate sort of the
For
alcohol
sure.
shadow
Yeah.
very naturally. You're just
Pluto's
like,
right
you've
there.
been doing it all your life.
I have, yeah.
So it wasn't so jarring. I have
I feel like
nothing.
I've
I
lived
have
like
Venus and
20
Sun
lifetimes.
conjunct at Hadar and nothing on the other
Oh.
side of the chart. So when my alcohol stuff hit, it was like, it was from a parallel lifetime emanation at a galactic level. And it was manipulating my timeline for multiple lifetimes, for like over 40 lifetimes. And this was just a lifetime where it's like, you're doing it. It's time to clean this up. So it was gnarly.
So you have a big fat Libra stellium all in your first house.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, she's a lot of
Wow.
Libra. That's
do
why
have
she's
a
so
lot of Libra.
lovely.
That's why you're so lovely.
I try to be the diplomat.
And you're
You
good
do.
at it. And like that is the Libra's best position.
Yep. But I tell you what, I really do appreciate that Sun Pluto conjunction of yours, Sashi, because it's just like, you're nice unless somebody gets in the way and it's like time to get out the sword.
Yeah. I don't play around
No.
anymore.
Mhm.
And
You know,
I really appreciate
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was a lot harsher when I thought I was a Scorpio my whole life. Almost merciless, I would say, of just destroying things that I didn't think should be existing, I guess is the way to put it. You know, false systems. I grew up at, you know, Catholic school, Catholic church, saw the atrocities going on there and spoke out against it, you know, publicly as like a 9-year-old. And then, yeah, got victimized and, you know, all that, like, oh, she's terrible. Look, she's against God. It's like, no, I'm against what the priests are doing that is public, you know. But yeah, then, you know, I understood I was a Libra, definitely went through some people pleasing stuff, but I'm coming out the butt end of that.
Yeah, I think that's probably
I've
most
learned the
of my
limits of my
challenge in my
mercy.
life too.
I've
Yeah.
learned the limits of my mercy. That's the era I'm in right
Well,
now.
it's just about healthy boundaries. And it's like,
Yes.
you just can instantaneously be like, nope, that was a boundary, doors closed, but not in an unhealthy way. Like, that's not
Exactly.
okay with me, and take
Mhm.
an appropriate course of action. So, I mean, that is some of the issues of being like a quote unquote diplomat, right? Is like, at some point, diplomatic relations can just not work. And you have to just be like, well, okay, goodbye.
Exactly. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, but me, I would always be like, I'd be the guy who's like bowing fancy, being like, and good day to you, sir, and just
Yeah.
walk away.
Yeah. I bid you adieu.
I bid you adieu. Have a nice life. May we meet again under better circumstances.
Yeah. More diplomatic circumstances.
Yeah.
Yep.
When
I
you
totally feel that.
come up an octave in your inner work.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
So good times. Well, we got off the subject of Taurus. That's
Yep,
weird.
that's okay.
You know, the rambles are good too.
It's still Venus codes.
It's all
feel,
that's
yeah.
true. It is all Venus codes.
Mhm.
You're absolutely right.
Which we did have a question about these stars and whether they're in Taurus. So the ones that are in Taurus, Janine has highlighted in parentheses Taurus. So these are things that you can actually find in, maybe I should pull up the Sky app.
Yeah, go for it. Because a lot of them are Orion elements.
Yeah. So an alignment is different than a star conjunction, we'll call it. So see the list over here. So here we see Aldebaran's actually in the constellation Taurus, but the other ones that we have in Orion. So this app doesn't have the ecliptic, but that was the line that was on Janine's software. So if you were to draw a line of the ecliptic, which is like right here. So let's say the sun's moving along the ecliptic. Here it is, here it is, here it is. If the sun's right here, it's making alignments with Rigel. If it's here, it's making alignments with Bellatrix. If it's here, it's making alignments with Beetlejuice. So that's how, again, alignments and star, because when there's alignments, it's like the star is being activated. It's still being highlighted in your chart, but it's definitely different than if you had the sun, or it wouldn't be the sun, but the moon, like directly on Aldebaran, or even like right here. So
Conjunct it. Yeah, a conjunction is different.
Right. Conjunction is
different than
within a
alignment.
couple degrees. Most people do within 5 degrees. Some people do within 10 degrees for outer planets, but really it's up to the discretion of.
Yeah. And we'll
whoever's
get
doing the
way
chart.
more into alignments when we start talking fixed star. This is just to wet
Yes.
your whistle on, hey,
Yeah.
look at all these fixed star alignments. But yeah, there is a difference. Like some of the ones, like the Pleiades are technically in Taurus, but it's still an alignment because it's kind of off the ecliptic. But I
Right.
have to say, for most of our new moons, there are alignments too. Like if you go to a sky app for our most recent blue moon, what, last month now? You'll see in the sky, the sun and the moon are not sitting on top of each other. That's an eclipse. They're in an alignment because they have like a 5-degree difference in the plane that they travel on, and periodically they do match up. The planes intersect, and those are the nodes. That's why it's the node and the sun and the moon making a solar eclipse, that kind of thing. So it's just showing you like, hey, if all the new moons aren't technically conjunctions, then why does everybody get their panties in a bunch about, oh, well, this is an alignment. This is an alignment, because all astrology is in alignment.
It helps us get in alignment too.
Yeah.
On the microscopic scale.
Yeah. So sometimes there will be full-blown conjunctions. It's not as often as you think it is once you start looking at the true sky. But when those things really do align, it is very powerful.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and we'll get more into the 3D understanding of the ecliptic and the alignments when we start talking legit fixed star chats.
Exactly.
So this is just a preview.
Yeah, we're still in season 1. This is the foreplay, the Taurus foreplay of everything we're going to bring for the True Sky Crew.
We're just landing it. We're just getting in there.
There's going to be layers. And, I was thinking about that too. I'm like, wow, with everything that we're working on now, just think how it's going to be in like 2 more years. It's going to be, beautiful. It just keeps going.
Yeah. Yep. And I think we have a good pace. I think we got a lot of the Taurus stuff for True Sky Crew. Good.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Total Taurian pace. Just doing it one little bit at a time. Making sure it's grounded. Love it. Anybody else have any questions? Let's see. Let's scroll back through the chat and see what else we got. Lobster legs. This helped a lot. Thank you. No, thank you. Lobster legs.
Glad to see you, Larry. Thanks for your questions too.
Yes. Let's see about a Taurus Pluto. Ooh, how could that manifest in a chart? That is a good question.
That's definitely I want to say difficult placement, but not necessarily if you know how to work with it. But since Pluto is the ruling planet of Scorpio, it's in the constellation opposition of its home. So you could kind of say that Pluto is the furthest away from home that it can be. So because Pluto is the planet of transformation, change, transmutation, death and rebirth, all of these things that Taurus typically don't enjoy, because they're all about it's like Pluto says you will live many lifetimes, and Taurus is kind of like YOLO and enjoying the material for what it is.
What about this lifetime, yo?
Exactly. Like, yeah, that may be true, but I'm going to live as this is my only lifetime and make my decisions based on that. Not that they, disregard their family. They are very, very family oriented, but they are typically more in the material realm. So a lot of Pluto in Taurus has to do with learning how to change the unmovable. A lot of changes in the material realm, changing the quality of materials that you consume or that are in your lifestyle. So someone with Pluto and Taurus probably maybe like some karma, they may be born into, maybe the consumerism mindset and then have to work their way out of it into more high quality, organic, nutrient dense, getting away from endocrine disruptors sort of lifestyle.
I mean, they could be born into some of those big money families that are running that's kind of like a system that really needs to change.
That think they run the planet. Yeah.
That's right. That are manipulating
yes.
the planet.
And they're meant
they
to
might be
that.
the family member that's like, this family needs an enema, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm going off grid. I'm going to take my bill. Who's that guy that works with Nassim Haramein that's like his benefactor? Was part of some big company. Oh man, I'll have to look it up and like post it in the comments. But there's somebody who's a benefactor. It'd be like taking your big Fortune 500 money and saying, you know what, I'm going to build free energy with this. Screw this shit.
I'm going to change the world for the better.
Yeah, that would be an interesting play out of like Pluto and Taurus.
I feel like that too. Like Pluto could be kind of unstoppable in Taurus, like because it has a bit more of that determination. And so it could really actually be a person who ends up kind of knowing how to make use of resources, like make something out of nothing.
Definitely. No matter what, they're changing the material world.
Yes.
Like challenging the status quo of what the material is now. It's like you literally change the planet. You change planet Earth. You're fixed Earth.
Yeah. Deep transformation. From a psychological point of view, it could be very, like you were saying in the beginning, Sashi, it could be very challenging. Like, I don't want to get in there and do this deep psychic basement, uncomfortable work. I'm just going to sit on the couch and eat chips. It could also be that. Depends on the situation you're in.
Yeah, Pluto will definitely bring you
some,
yeah. Pluto will give you, I want to say spanking, but it's not even that. It's like
it's a thrashing.
It's worse. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like belting.
It's like we're gonna rip this out of your life because it has got to go. Well, it's gonna surface it and then you get to do the shifting, but it'll keep I can imagine it would, like Pluto from a psychological level could possibly just pummel that person and be like, do you see it yet? 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 It could be intense. It could be really intense. Absolutely. Those two definitely don't, I feel like you're right. They don't play super well together. It depends on the other things aspecting it really as to how that person would navigate it.
Yeah, it can be, any placement can be powerful if you know how to use it. But again, Pluto's the furthest away from home in Taurus. So you really have to learn how to work with Pluto.
Yeah. I could see some really interesting, like once you've done the Pluto reconciliation, though, some of the recovery work, like old ancient parts of yourselves, past life skill set, like really ancient galactic level past life skill sets would be like, you would understand you're probably like a planetary core protector, you're a steward of the earth, you're probably part of a galactic lineage that was keeps incarnating here as protectorship on the planet. So
yeah, Earth
sometimes their job energy. Like why they would show up as a Taurus is literally is like your DNA just needs to be on the planet. Like you don't really have to do anything, so you can be that lazy sit on the couch eating potato chips kind of Taurus. You just need to be in a suit. You need to be in a bodysuit to hold those codes down. And at a Pluto level, they just might not realize the importance of that. But it could also be like, go out and tend to your garden and have a good time. Have a nice, tactile, awesome, nature-based life. Because that's all you really need to be doing. I mean, that's all we really, that's all we all need to be doing. Like, you don't need money. The world is, that's really the key.
Everything is provided for. Yes. Exactly. Everything is provided for on a base level, and it's the false materialism, which is consumerism pretending to be materialism, that tricks us into thinking that we have to pay money to survive. Because that's another thing about Taurus that, I mean, we touched upon how, you know, they always have the money and things like that, but they rule material resources in general. During our lifetime, we consider that to be money because we are on such a monetary based system, but I see a lot of us moving away from monetary base and more into bartering and things. I know I barter and trade all the time with farmers and artisans.
And that's why I use the system I use for my sessions. Like I read a book about gift economics. Man, I wish my brain would work. I could remember the name of it. I will also put that in the show description. But it was about the gifting model and how to break out of the consumerist monetary model and move back into abundance. And it's just like, where your cup runneth over, gift your energy or, you know, your services, and allow people to pay what they can or to gift you something in return. And I really try and embrace that for my, it's the one place where it's like my income is not dependent on doing the sessions. So it's like, I like to play with that model for astrology sessions. And it's just a good way to work back into that and to, I feel like, just show that this model can work if everybody does it. Just move back into abundance because it's all there.
Exactly. We have access to it all. It's literally, you know, even if you wanted to go into the forest, you know, you could survive. You have everything that you need to build a house. You could forage. Not saying that that's the lifestyle everyone needs to be living. There are very real ways to have all of the modern day luxuries while still doing things sustainable with the earth.
Yeah, that's really the shift I feel like that's coming through.
Yeah,
like all the star seeds and people that are activating, that are making camping cool again, like glamping and taking your van out and living on the road. It's like they're modeling a lifestyle, right? And they're making it cool. And that is the key to getting other people to do, is like, look how awesome this is. Look how long you can go without having a job. Look, you know, you can, what is the thing that you, it was like where people can go from place to place and like,
oh, it's called
here for
woofing.
Okay.
Yeah, woofing. So it's like world WWOFF. It's like worldwide organic farmers something. Or maybe there's only one F. But yeah, I had some an ex-boyfriend of mine actually did it. And yeah, he had people from all over the world come and stay at his place. He also Airbnb'd his place too. And he had people in and out from all over the world staying there for free through woofing and just helping with his beekeeping, helping with his garden, basically like a mini farm.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, like homesteading and really understanding, you, even if you have an apartment and you have no yard, you can still grow things. There's so many different ways that you can grow your own food. And also, I highly recommend to be saving your seeds.
Yeah.
Like any heritage seeds, they don't take a lot of space, but that is true wealth, having a really healthy seed stock.
Absolutely.
Hang out with people that do that, make friends with people that do that. Like,
exactly.
You know,
and usually there's a seed swap in every major city. So you can just Google it in your city and you go, and usually they'll give you like, you know, you get 5 free packets or, you know, seeds of different things. And then you can pay like a quarter for other ones. But I don't know, every time I've gone to the seed swap, people are just throwing free seeds at us. So
that's great.
You know, it's a really great way to, you know, get free seeds.
Make friends with farmers, go to the farmers market, find your local community garden.
Yes.
Get your feet in the dirt, get your hands in the dirt. Go get back to nature. That's also Taurian.
100%.
So there's lots of ways to do it, lots of free ways to do it. And that really is, I feel like, going to help rebuild the organic model, because it's really about organic and abundance.
Yep.
Taurus in a nutshell. So anything else? Let's see. Do we have any other comments, questions? My Taurus friend growing potatoes on their department.
I think maybe apartment.
Apartment. Yeah, apartment.
Yeah, potatoes
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
they're so easy to grow. They multiply like crazy. You could just have a small, tall pot and, you know, get 40, 50 potatoes out of it.
Yeah.
They like to do it in layers. But potatoes are typically poisonous to most other things, except like lettuces or like the sulfuric, like cauliflower,
Solenoids. I think
broccoli.
it's like the solenoids in potatoes, or is that what's called? Anyway, that might be.
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but I know they're like sulfur based.
Yeah.
Broccoli.
Don't
Brussels
eat a
sprouts
green
is another
potato.
one. Yeah, never eat a green potato. That is so
Never eat it.
poisonous.
Yeah.
Y'all, I
So
realized I was on mute after a while. I was like, how come I keep trying to talk and no one hears me? I was
Oh,
like,
no.
I'm
jump
mute.
in, Georgia.
It's okay. Everyone said all the things. I can't even remember now, but sorry, guys.
Oh, you're good. Anything else you want to throw in the hat? I feel like we're just kind of like wrapping it up.
Mm-hmm.
I
Any
think we're good.
closing
think
thoughts
that
on
we-
Taurus?
I feel complete for myself
Yep, me too.
for the night. Yeah.
Yeah. Big goddess energy, natural abundance, organic timelines. Go get you some.
Definitely.
Cute.
All right. Well,
Right, you guys.
let's do our are we doing the closing what did we call it?
Our
I'll tell you what,
outro?
Mercury retrograde has got me good today.
Yeah.
Like my words are like our closing statements.
Well, I don't think we have it
I don't
yet.
think
but
we
we're gonna-
agreed
Our
it.
outro. That's
I
it.
don't
Did
think-
we come
yeah.
up with an outro?
I don't think we
Okay.
gave the outro yet, but
Stay tuned for our outro.
yeah, stay tuned for the
Coming soon.
outro and for the next episode.
And we are the True Sky Crew. You can find us here on YouTube at the True Sky Crew. I'm sure you all know that. You can find us on Instagram at the same handle. I am Inner Sky Alchemy on IG. Who wants to go
I
next?
am Star Nectar Astrology on Instagram.
And I recently went through a name change. As you know, I am a Libra, not a Scorpio. Very Libra thing to have to do all the legal paperwork to change my business and stuff. But you can find me at Sachi the Seer on Instagram and Twitter. I still hold the rights to Sachi the Scorpio, so you can also find me through Sachi the Scorpio, which is still my YouTube. I also still run that Twitter account and the Instagram shortly as well. So you can find me either
Awesome.
of those places.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
So everybody have a good night. We'll be back in 2 weeks
Yep.
talking about October transits already. My goodness.
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
Oh gosh.
So,
Do we have eclipses in October or is it November? Well, I guess
honestly,
we'll have
haven't
to
looked
look at
that
charts.
far,
October
so-
14th?
Stay tuned.
I think it's October 14th.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
That's
Okay,
soon.
well, we have that to look forward to in our October chat. We'll see you guys there.
All right. See you guys
All right,
there.
until next time. Thanks for everyone who joined.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.